What is up, Janksters? It's your boy Graham, also known as HamHawks42 on the internet, and today we have another edition of the Overthinking MTG podcast. Today, I want to do a detailed breakdown on the big bad demon lord himself, Griselbrand. Now, this is an appropriate deep dive for a couple of different reasons. As I'm recording this, Wizards just officially announced that Griselbrand will be entering MTG Arena in the historic format through a bonus sheet in Shadows Over Innistrad Remastered. And if that sounds complicated, it's because it kind of is. Long story short, once Shadows Over Innistrad Remastered launches on Arena, you'll be able to craft Griselbrand. And if you're drafting during a certain week, you might be able to draft Griselbrand or get the distinct privilege of playing against Griselbrand. So be aware of that. It's kind of an awkward release, but it might work out really well. I don't know. We'll see. As far as I know, Wizards has never done anything quite like this. It's leveraging the flexibility of a digital client in a new way, which should be interesting. In any event, who is Griselbrand? Griselbrand is a legendary demon from Avacyn Restored that is nothing short of a house. This card is the card that Legacy and vintage reanimator and modern reanimator strategies are trying to get online. So if you've ever played with a reanimator deck in various formats, you know that generally you want to get the biggest, scariest thing that you can possibly get out of your deck onto the battlefield very quickly. The goal is to get it down as early as possible. In, Standard or Pioneer, you might be looking at turn 4, maybe turn 5. In, Vintage and Legacy, you might be looking at turn 1 if you have access to things like Dark Ritual. Stuff can get very weird. A Dark Ritual in Tomb Animate Dead is totally a thing you can do in those formats. And my goodness, if you haven't had the privilege of pulling that off, oh, it's the best. But regardless, all of those strategies have this incredible flexibility to grab almost any creature. Now, there are certain creatures that are intentionally difficult to reanimate. A lot of the Eldrazi or Blightsteel Colossus, for example, have this text that when they go into your graveyard, they shuffle back in, or they shuffle your whole graveyard back into your library. So all of a sudden, they just don't stick in the yard. And that's because they would be perfect reanimator strategies, or they would be perfect reanimator targets, and Wizards knew that because they're designed to just be the biggest, dumbest, scariest thing possible, so they don't let you reanimate them. So the biggest, dumbest, scariest thing possible they do let you reanimate is Griselbrand. This demon has been the thing that people go and grab in those types of strategies for literally years, and it's really no surprise why. So he costs 4 black, so an 8 mana creature, flying lifelink, 7/7 legendary demon, pay 7 life, draw 7 cards. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. So in a legacy kind of situation, imagine being on the play. If your opponent doesn't have Force of Will, they're completely hosed, because you can turn 1 Dark Ritual, entomb a Griselbrand, use something like Exhume or Animate Dead to bring Griselbrand online, and then the fun begins, because once you have Griselbrand online, especially if you haven't paid any mana, or maybe you paid a little bit of, life. If you haven't paid any life at this point, you can lose 7 life or lose 14 life and draw that many cards. Being able to draw a huge chunk of your deck and have perfect control over what you keep in that scenario is just absolutely backbreaking. That kind of card advantage puts your opponent in a situation where they have no more outs. It's over. Already, the moment Griselbrand hits the field, if you have the life to spend, you just draw more cards than your opponent can keep up with. You then have all the answers to everything they do. You gladly take any 1-for-1 or even 2-for-1 trades that go in your opponent's favor, and you don't really care because you can restock your hand in such a beautiful way. And on top of that, with Griselbrand having lifelink, if Griselbrand connects, you gain 7 life. What this might as well say is when Griselbrand deals combat damage to a player, draw 7 cards. Because that's what you do. You hit them, you gain 7 life, you then, in many situations anyway, spend that 7 life to turn it into 7 cards, refill your grip, and then, you're golden. You have the world is your oyster. You can do just about anything. That ability is insane. Being able to pay 7 life to draw 7 cards there's a reason that effects like that these days are gated behind mana costs. That's something that you see sometimes. Like Villis, Broker of Blood, is a demon that is very similar to Griselbrand. I'm going to go ahead and pull him up here real quick. Villis, the Broker of Blood, is a legendary demon. It's an 8/8 for 8 with flying, no lifelink. And you can pay 1 black, pay 2 life to give target creature -1/-1 until end of turn, but whenever you lose life, you draw that many cards. So you have this ability where you can pay 1 black and 2 life to get an effect that a lot of the time is negligible, but you pay the 2 life, you lose 2 life, you draw 2 cards. So as a result, you can pay 1 mana and 2 life to draw 2 cards and potentially kill something, which can be relevant, don't get me wrong, but for the most part, you're doing it for the card draw. So this is a similar effect. I've oftentimes referred to Villis as Griselbrand at home because that's very much what this card is. But it turns out even like the Kirkland brand budget basement Griselbrand is still pretty good. So Villis has been actually pretty fantastic for me in a lot of situations. As a Commander Reanimator enthusiast, I'm a big fan of this card. And, you know, you can see why. A large body that can take over, that has flying, that can also generate you card advantage is incredible. And that's ultimately what Griselbrand is. He's the OG when it comes to that. Yeah, he's fantastic. The only other card that gives Griselbrand a run for his money is Atraxa Grand Unifier. Atraxa is the other card that people cite as a genuine threat to Griselbrand's superiority as the reanimator target in Eternal formats. And that is wild to me. I think it's absolutely fascinating. And a big part of the reason for that, by the way, is on stats, like, they're kind of comparable. I mean, they're both 7/7 flyers, and they have flying and lifelink. Granted, Atraxa also has Death Touch and Vigilance, which, holy cow. But Griselbrand can draw you more cards. Atraxa draws you 3 to 5 cards when she first enters the battlefield, but then that's it. Granted, you have some selection over those, so that's pretty cool. But that's usually about it. Griselbrand, however, you just keep drawing an obscene number of cards throughout the course of the game. If the game's going to go longer, I want Griselbrand every time. But if I'm going to try to explosively kill my opponent quickly, as reanimator strategies often do, Atraxa looks pretty good. So I think, honestly, both cards are excellent. The difference when it comes to Eternal formats, especially Legacy, is that Atraxa can be pitched to Force of Will. And if you're not familiar with what that means, Force of Will is a counterspell that says you can discard a blue card rather than pay its mana cost. And so having blue cards in your hand that are expendable that you can discard to cast Force of Will is a big deal, because those counterspells disrupt your opponent's combos when they're trying to set them off. And that's a way to get Atraxa into your graveyard. So the fact that you can use a Force of Will as a discard outlet to put your reanimation threat in the graveyard that you can then pull out later is a very powerful line that you have in Legacy specifically, that Griselbrand can't do because Griselbrand isn't blue. So that's kind of a neat difference, and the kind of wrinkle that Legacy players notice that the rest of us probably wouldn't be aware of. So that's kind of interesting, I think, anyway. But yeah, so Griselbrand, this demon is super huge. One of the other things I actually absolutely adore too, Flavorfully. So this is, if I'm not mistaken, Griselbrand is one of the demons that Liliana signed a contract with for her incredible power. And so the notion of like these demons coming together to bind Liliana to a contract for like eternal youth and incredible power, I believe was the deal. I don't know. The contract was very wishy-washy. It was kind of all over the place. Regardless of whatever the terms of that deal were, Griselbrand was a part of that exchange. And so the fact that Griselbrand has this ability where you draw 7 cards. I mean, talk about the Magic equivalent of ultimate power at your fingertips. Drawing 7 cards, accessing 7 new spells that you can leverage against your foes at a whim is very, very cool. However, you have to lose 7 life to do it. You know, deals with demons are never without a catch, and that's that. So like, Flavorfully, this is actually really cool. The idea of making a deal with Griselbrand and he gives you incredible power, but it hurts you to take advantage of it. Kind of neat. And actually it fits with just black in general, the black color identity of ambition and trying to achieve great power at any cost. This is perfect. Like, summarizes it perfectly. So the fact that this is an incredibly powerful card that has all kinds of utility, I mean, neat. And it's coming to Arena. Woo! So I'll be very interested to see in Historic specifically, which is the format where Griselbrand will be legal. So you'll find Griselbrand craftable if you go into the card collection. You will also sometimes, when you are drafting Shadows Over Innistrad Remastered, there is a chance Griselbrand will show up as like a bonus card within one of the packs. There's a whole bonus sheet that they're adding, and they are rotating it every week. So there will be weeks where Griselbrand, or I believe at least 1 week, where Griselbrand will be available in those packs, and you may be able to draft Griselbrand. You will also have to face Griselbrand, potentially, if luck is not on your side, on the other side of the field during that week. When the next week rolls around, Griselbrand is off the table along with all the other cards that were available for that week in the bonus sheet. The rest of the main set remains unchanged, so a lot of the draft environment is going to be the same. However, they're going to add a couple more different cards. And the cards on that bonus sheet are from the original Innistrad block. So Shadows Over Innistrad and Eldritch Moon were kind of the return to Innistrad, like kind of the first return to Innistrad. We've since returned to the return to Innistrad, but in any event, there was also the original Innistrad block, and that had a ton of cool cards in it, Griselbrand being one of them. Another one that I plan on doing an episode on, Snapcaster Mage. Another phenomenal card, like one of the best 2-drops ever printed in blue, and that's going to be coming as well. I don't know if Griselbrand and Snapcaster will be in the same weeks. I would imagine they're probably going to rotate the mythics, but in any event, very cool card. Super powerful. You'll love to see it. So thank you so much for checking out this video if you're watching on the YouTubes or the podcast if you're listening in audio form. Overthinking MTG, anywhere podcasts are available. Thank you so much. Check in on the next one. Or I'll catch you on the next one. I don't know why I said check on that one. I always say catch. I'll catch you on the next one. That sounded better.